If the green agenda is malleable to politicians, to others, the decisions have concrete consequences. Hussein Kaplan has seen his wholesale prices rocket recently because of inflation, and footfall is down. That's due to the low-traffic neighbourhood scheme, he says. It stops vehicles from accessing some local streets as cut-throughs, whilst promoting walking and cycling as friendlier options.
My customers in the morning, they were passing here by car and they stopping. They're buying sandwich, coffee, blah, 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 blah. But at the moment, completely, it's finished now. Is the council now working like a business company? Just they make money. Maybe in future, I have to close down.
This morning, the Prime Minister declared on social media that cars offer families to live their lives. It's something anti-motorist Labour just don't seem to get.
Clearly, he's run out of ideas on how to fix the economy, and all of a sudden he's just picked a fight on the back of a by-election to try to pick the size of motorists. But look, where we are in Hackney now, more than 70% of people don't own a car, so the majority of people either walk, cycle or take public transport. We've had extensive consultations with people about the schemes we've brought in.
LTNs are in use across England and have always been controversial. Some say they cause more congestion and air pollution on boundary roads.
We've asked the Department for Transport to have a look at low-traffic neighbourhoods. The reality is that they can work in some areas, but in other areas there's more than a suspicion that all they're doing is just driving traffic into neighbouring areas, which is actually causing more congestion.
There's been little further detail on the review that Rishi Sunak is proposing, which has prompted concern that green issues are being used for political gain.
I really wish people would stop playing politics with this issue and just look at the reality of people's lives. Actually, people in this area are safer, they're healthier, and it's a much more friendly community.
This is undoubtedly a polarising issue, and that appears to be exactly what the politicians want as we head towards a general election.
Ria Chatterjee there. Well, earlier I spoke to Tessa Khan, founder of the environmental campaign group Uplift UK. She also works as an international climate change and human rights lawyer. Joining me too was Howard Cox, founder of the motorist organisation Fair Fuel UK. He is standing in the London's mayoral election on a platform of scrapping the ULEZ and low traffic schemes. I began by asking Tessa Khan about warnings from environmental groups who say the Prime Minister is backsliding over green policies.
I think it's completely out of touch, actually, with what the British public need and want. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the two really serious issues of concern for people up and down the country at the moment are the cost of living and climate change. And if we look at what's really driven up the cost of living over the last year, it is our dependency on oil and gas. In fact, across the UK, we've got the highest household energy bills of any country in Western Europe, according to the International Monetary Fund. And that's because we're exceptionally dependent on gas. And what people need to bring down their bills is insulation of their homes. At the moment, we have some of the leakiest homes across the UK and across Europe. And that means that we are wasting energy every time we switch on our heating. We also need to switch as quickly as possible to renewable energy, which at the height of the spike in gas prices last year was 9 times cheaper than gas as a source of electricity. So there is a clear way forward if we're thinking about affordability and the cost of living, and that is transitioning as quickly as possible to green energy.
So, Howard Cox, it can be a little bit disingenuous to suggest that all of these green policies are costing money when, in fact, some of them will be saving people money.
Well, I'm sorry to say that one of the comments made just now, really saying that most people want to have fight climate change, etc. It's not true whatsoever. I represent drivers. There's 37 million drivers in this country, and they feel victimised. They are always used as an easy cash grabbing cow. And we have an example in London with the mayor, actually. He's going to introduce ULEZ extension to the whole of the M25. And that's going to hurt drivers to the tune of up to £4,000 a year, when there's no need to do it and there's no demonstrable proof, even from his own Transport for London group, that they said there'll be any improvement in the quality of air we breathe.
Right, so this is that's an air pollution policy, but we're talking about green policies in general, really, that they are beneficial, and loads of people are supportive of that in general.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know where you get your polls from, but I've got polls as well to say people are more interested in the cost of living and cost of getting to work. They have to get to work, all those sorts of things.
Well, the polls
and
that
that's
I
more
got are
important.
from the Office of National Statistics, where it says 90%, over 90% of people are concerned with cost of living, and over 68% are concerned with the environment.
And there's 6 out of 10 drivers have to use their vehicles to get to work. They've got no choice, but they're being punished on a green virtual signalling approach. We need to work together to actually improve the air quality and all of the pollution, all the emissions and all the green targets. I'm all for that, but we don't need to do it by hitting people in the pocket.
Tessa, just bringing you in, hitting people in the pocket, there's a cost to some of these policies, isn't there? And we've seen that that's not necessarily popular among people. Does Mr. Cox have a point?
Yeah, I mean, he has a point insofar as we've got to make sure that people who can't afford it in the middle of a cost of living crisis aren't asked to fork out for policies that actually the government should be ensuring that the most vulnerable people have support to roll out. And that's what we've seen. I mean, there are clean air zones being rolled out all across Europe. The same can be said of a lot of the measures that would be needed to get our homes off gas, like heat pumps, like insulation. We are way behind neighbouring countries, and that's because there is a way of doing that that brings people with you, that's fair, that distributes costs evenly. But ultimately, I mean, what is incredibly clear, and this was according to the Office for Budget Responsibility just in the last couple of weeks, is that our current level of reliance on fossil fuels risks putting significant strain on the national budget, adding tens of billions of pounds to the national debt, and is significantly more than the costs associated with a transition towards green energy. So it's really a win-win. I mean, aside from the fact that clean air benefits everybody's health, the climate crisis, which we've seen unfolding in a terrifying way around us, across Europe, across India, across the world, I mean, it's just indisputable, I think, that that is something that we've got to prioritise. And if we do it, we can also save people money and bring down the cost of living.
Right, and Howard Cox, just bringing you in on what you've seen today from Rishi Sunak, do you think what you've seen today, do you want him to go further? Do you think he has done enough, in your view?
No, he hasn't done enough. He's presided over, well, the Conservative government for 13 years, presided in taxing the highest ever taxes for 70 years. And, you know, we have the highest tax drivers in the world. Everything is about taking money from the hardworking people. And that's the issue that I'm fighting for. We need to get together, all of us, to try and get a clean fuel technology approach that is affordable and doesn't hit people in the pocket. And I think Rishi Sunak should focus on that, because at the moment, all he's trying to do is actually to get votes.
Just a final word to you. What would be your message to the Prime Minister right now, having seen what he said today?
I think it's a huge mistake to ignore the cost of living, which is really being driven up by our dependence on fossil fuels. It's a mistake to ignore the climate crisis, which is also an issue of major concern for people. And it's a mistake to keep actually subsidising, if we're talking about subsidising the oil and gas industry, which, thanks to a big loophole in the windfall tax, is going to benefit from an £11 billion tax break when they are making record profits and people around this country are suffering trying to buy the products that they're selling. So I think the direction of travel is really clear if Rishi Sunak is interested in doing what's right for the country.
So, Tessa Khan, Howard Cox, thank you very much both for your time. Thank you.